Hello and thank you for watching the news channel. My name is Peter Vekselman from coachingbypeter.com. Brian Haskins has been a full-time investor for 8 years, closing several hundred deals. He uses systems and outsourcing to work less and make more money. Brian has recently started sharing his systems and outsourcing secrets, and now his students all over the country are now working less in their business and making more money.
Thanks, Peter. And I also want to take a moment before we get started and just thank you for all the resources that you give out. One great resource that I'd like to mention right now is your website, askpeterv.com, and that's askpeterv.com, where people can go on and ask you questions and get live responses right from you, Peter. So I first of all just want to thank you for that and all the other great resources that you offer everybody.
Brian, is outsourcing bad for our economy?
Peter, that's a really great question, and that's a question that I get asked a lot. People always want to know, is outsourcing bad for our economy? And there's a couple of ways that you can look at this. The first way that I look at it is that, yes, if everybody started to move all their business overseas, it would be detrimental to our economy here in the United States, and that's part of the reason that we've seen a lot of decline and things like that so far. And the upside to working with virtual assistants and having them do some business for you, even if it is overseas or right here in the United States, the upside that I've seen to outsourcing is that typically whenever you outsource certain jobs, it increases your productivity and you make more money. And a lot of times you wouldn't make that money if you weren't outsourcing those particular jobs. So typically in my business, in my real estate investing business, after about the first 6 months of outsourcing, I was able to actually triple my income. And what I did with that money was basically spend the majority of the money right here in the United States. So I look at it as if you're making more money by outsourcing, you're going to be spending more money here in the United States, which is going to kind of help strengthen our economy. A lot of this is money that I would have never made if I wasn't already outsourcing. Now, the other side of the coin is I do try to keep as much of my outsourcing here in the United States as possible. We're going to talk about this, I'm sure, here in a little bit, but virtual assistants here in the United States can work for you for just a few dollars an hour as well. So typically, when it comes to outsourcing, I try to offer as many jobs here in the United States as possible. And then for some of the jobs that I ship over to some of the different countries that we'll talk about in a few minutes, I'm sure, those jobs might be $50 to $100 an hour, or I'm sorry, $50 to $100 a month worth of outsourcing. So I don't feel that that's really a large amount of money that's going to be going overseas. It's not like I'm operating a large business or anything like that. So I'm able to, take a little bit of that money and send it over to maybe the Philippines or another country like that where I can hire a virtual assistant. But I'm able to get so much more done, and that way I'm able to make a lot more money. And then I take that money and spend it right here in the United States. So to answer your question, it can be bad, for our economy if a lot of big businesses leave. But small jobs that you outsource and maybe send overseas to the Philippines or some other different countries where I hire my virtual assistants from, I don't necessarily think it's a really bad thing. But on the other hand, like I said, I do try to hire as many virtual assistants as I possibly can right here in the United States. So that's kind of my opinion on outsourcing and how it kind of affects our economy.
When do you want to start outsourcing in your business?
Thanks for asking, Peter. Typically, what I tell my students is that whenever they want to start outsourcing their business, typically you want to do it sooner rather than later. It's always best to take a look at your business and start to break down certain parts of it and see what you can outsource. And one of the great things about real estate investing is that a lot of it can be outsourced. So typically, I tell my students you want to start outsourcing as soon as possible. You want to take your business, break it down, start creating systems, figure out what things you would like to outsource, things that you maybe don't necessarily like to do, or some of the things you don't want to do. Start outsourcing those things first. Start kind of small and then work into it. And typically, like I said, you want to start outsourcing, a little bit at a time here and there, but you want to kind of start outsourcing as soon as possible because it's going to really benefit you and help you grow your business and expand your business a lot quicker. So typically, like I said, start outsourcing sooner rather than later.
Brian, where do you actually find and hire virtual assistants?
That's definitely something that everybody wants to know. And there's two sites that I like to use whenever I hire virtual assistants. The first one, my favorite website, is odesk.com, and that's spelled odesk.com. And the other site that I like to use is elance.com, and that's spelled elance.com. Those are my two favorite websites for hiring virtual assistants, and typically where I hire about 99% of all my virtual assistants. In other cases, I'll have some virtual assistants that contact me. They'll find my profile maybe on Odesk or Elance, and they'll actually contact me as well. Another place that you can go to find virtual assistants, you can just go right into Google and you can type in, virtual assistants, and there's a lot of different sites out there that you can try. But typically, I like to stick with either Elance or Odesk, especially if you're just kind of starting out looking to find virtual assistants. Those are going to be the two best websites to kind of start out with.
Where's the best country to hire virtual assistants from?
Well, there's a couple different countries that I like to recommend hiring virtual assistants from. Typically, I like to start out here in the United States. If I can't find someone at a price that I can afford here in the United States, typically I'll look either to another country that is a native English-speaking country, something like maybe in Australia, New Zealand, certain parts of Europe. And then also for certain jobs, if I'm looking to get the work done at a pretty reasonable rate, a lot of times I'll go to the Philippines to hire virtual assistants. And typically the virtual assistants that you'll find in the Philippines can speak English very well. They can understand it, they can read it, they can write it, which is really important when it comes to choosing the right virtual assistant. You want to make sure that you have good communication. So those are really the main countries that I tend to hire my virtual assistants from.
Brian, how much do you pay your virtual assistants?
That's a question that I get asked a lot. Everybody always wants to know, how much should I pay my virtual assistants? And it's a really good question. Typically, whenever I'm hiring a virtual assistant, if I'm hiring somebody here in the United States, typically I'll look for people anywhere from the $4 to $7 an hour range. That's typically a good threshold of where you're going to find good virtual assistants, depending on the type of work that you're going to be doing. If it's a lot of specialized work, sometimes it's going to be much more than that. But for general jobs like data entry, answering calls, and a lot of the day-to-day type stuff that you'll hire virtual assistants for, that's a good price range that you can look at for virtual assistants here in the United States. Now, if you want to hire a virtual assistant in the Philippines, typically you can get a good virtual assistant from anywhere from $2 to $4 an hour. Now, you're going to be able to find a lot of virtual assistants that'll bid under that, but one thing to kind of keep an eye out for is that a lot of those virtual assistants, they can still do the job and do a good job with it, but they're going to take a lot more time from you and a lot more training to kind of get them able to do the job. So in the long run, you're better off kind of hiring people, I say, from like the $2 to $4 an hour range if you're going to be hiring people from the Philippines. So that's just kind of an idea that or a guideline that I follow whenever I'm hiring my virtual assistants, and that's what I tell all my students.
Can you give me some helpful tips for interviewing and picking the best virtual assistant?
Well, the best tip that I can give you for choosing the right virtual assistant is that you want to make sure that you do a really good job in the interview process. Typically what I like to do is I like to give the top maybe 3 or 4 virtual assistants that I choose. I'll kind of narrow it down to maybe 3 or 4 people, and then I'll give them a specific job for them to do, kind of like a little sample job or a test job that's going to be kind of related to the work that I'm going to be giving them. And whoever does the best job on that sample work, that's typically who I hire. And that way it gives you a little bit of a chance to kind of see how they work, how they interact with you, how they communicate, and kind of what their skills are. Typically, you're going to want to find, you're going to choose the person that maybe does the best job, maybe with the least direction. There's a lot of little factors that you're going to be able to kind of look at and see how they work whenever you give them a sample job like that. So that's typically going to be the best way that you can choose the right virtual assistant for the job. Is you want to make sure that you do a really good job in the interview process and make sure that, that they do a sample piece of work for you.
Brian, what's the first thing in your business that you should really outsource?
The first things that you're going to want to outsource in your business are going to be the things that either you don't like to do necessarily, or maybe the things that you have to do in your business that are time consuming, that don't make you a lot of money. Those are typically going to be the best things to outsource, because a lot of times those are the things that get kind of pushed off and never get done. And with hiring a virtual assistant, you can have them do these types of things to make sure things always get done for you. So typically I recommend that you start out, like I said, with either things that take a lot of time on your part, that maybe don't make you a lot of money, or maybe some things that you just don't necessarily like to do, and things that you put off a lot in your business. Those are the things that I recommend most of my students start with. Now, another thing that you can look at too are things that you want to make sure that are constant in your business. Let's say things like your marketing, follow up, things like that. Those are great things also to start outsourcing your business, to make sure that they get done. Make sure that you don't forget to do something, and that you always have leads coming in and things like that. So that's what I would recommend whenever you're first starting your outsourcing.
What are the best ways to manage your virtual assistant and keep track of their work?
Well, a couple of tools that I can recommend that you use whenever you're going to be managing your virtual assistant is Basecamp.com is a really great one that you can use. It's like a online collaboration tool. Another one that's similar is CentralDesktop.com. These are great tools that you can use to kind of manage your virtual assistant. You can keep everything all in one place. You can create to-do lists for them. That way they can log in. You can watch them work. They can check off the work as they get it done. You can upload all your files, keep all your communication with your virtual assistants all in one place, which is really important. Another great thing that you can take a look at is if you use either Odesk or Elance when hiring virtual assistants, they also have a lot of built-in tools that are similar to these websites that they're no cost, which are a really great option as well. But if you're looking for something that you can use for multiple virtual assistants to kind of keep all your projects in one place, you can either check out Basecamp.com or CentralDesktop.com. Those are the tools that I use to manage my virtual assistant.
Hey, Brian, that was absolutely awesome. I enjoyed you sharing this invaluable information with everyone. I know I got tons of value out of it, and I know the listeners will also. Where can someone get more information about your products?
Peter, I first of all just want to thank you again for having me on today and allowing me to share this great information with your group. And if anybody wants to find out more information about virtual assistants and how I have my business structured and how I use virtual assistants in my real estate investing business, they can go to my website, which is wholesaletoriches.com. That's the word wholesale, the word to, and then the word riches, riches.com, wholesaletoriches.com. And on there you can download a free report which shows you how I use virtual assistants in my business, how I've got my business structured, and what the virtual assistants do for me. So thanks again, Peter. I appreciate it, and I enjoyed sharing all this great information.
Hi, this is Peter. After successfully completing over 1,200 real estate deals in the last 15 plus years, one of my biggest passions in life now is to work with individuals just like yourself and help you achieve both the financial successes and the lifestyle successes that this real estate investing industry affords us. Simply click on the link below and you'll be taken to a web page where you'll learn more about how I could personally mentor you and help you become wildly successful in the real estate investing industry.